So, Jesse, your story is unbelievably interesting, and I'm excited to unpack it all. You left the beauty salon world to dive all into real estate not too long ago. And I want to know everything about it. How did it come about? Why real estate? Why get out of beauty salon? All the details.
Yeah, so I'm still in the beauty industry. I still own my salon. I work in it 1 day a week now. But, I started the salon in 2017. I had left a big box beauty retailer because retail just really did not fit my lifestyle, my goals anymore. So I went all in on entrepreneurship, starting a beauty salon. I really just fell in love with the business piece. So the salon actually got going fairly quickly. But after a couple years of just totally grinding in the salon, working in it behind the chair, day in and day out, I was experiencing really bad body pain, like way worse than anyone in their late 20s should be experiencing. And it was all just because of the repetitive movements, hunching over. And I was doing everything under the sun to try and improve it and fix that problem. And just nothing was working because I was working way too much, way too hard physically.
Mm.
I realized it's just not something I could do forever, and I didn't want to be doing that forever either. So I actually first discovered the whole fire movement from a Facebook clickbait article. So that's what was the catalyst for all of this. It was I think Millennial Money Honey who was being interviewed,
Yep.
and I clicked on it because it was like 26 and on track to retire. So I'm like, that sounds good.
Yeah.
So
Sign me up for that. By the way,
yeah,
anybody listening who doesn't know what the FIRE movement is, it stands for Financial Independence Retire Early. And it is a huge move. It's probably even bigger, like in the mid 2010s, I would say. But it's still
Mhm.
massive today, no doubt.
Yeah, so I read that article and I was like, this could totally work for me because in the beauty salon, I was making more money than I had ever even fathomed making. And I only needed just a little bit of it to live every month.
Mm.
So my savings rate was around 70%. I
Wow.
was aggressively investing 70% of my money into index funds and realized it was still going to take me 11 years of doing that to retire. And I knew I just could not keep up that pace for 11 years.
Yep.
So I sort of felt like I had to figure out a different plan. And one Fire podcast had someone, had a guest on who was investing in real estate, and he essentially said, you could achieve early retirement in more like 2 years with real estate if you really really play it right. And I'm like, even if he's only half right, even if it takes 4 years, that's better than what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So this was only 2 years ago, and I just fell, all the way down the rabbit hole. I became a student of real estate. I read every book, I listened to every podcast, I took the Bigger Pockets rookie boot camp, I paid for the coaching calls. And it was this month, 2 years ago, that I started making offers. So that's kind of everything that led up to my real estate journey.
Unbelievable. I mean, that is a crazy story. You see a clickbait article and you're like, I want to retire early. Then you come to the realization that not to bash index funds, I think there's some opportunity to have liquidity in people's portfolio, but it's very evident that if you're wanting to retire early, real estate is going to beat the stock market 9 times out of 10. And we can
Hmm.
dive into that and really unpack that. But you saw that, and then, so you figured it all out logically, which a lot of people, I think, maybe get to that step, but where a lot of people stop is right there. Because then emotionally or fear, whatever you want to call it, keep them from actually saying, all right, I know that real estate is going to get me to where I want to go, but I'm too scared to do it. Or I don't want to figure out how to do it, or I don't want to go through the struggle of doing it. And for you to actually come to the realization but then go and do it is pretty remarkable. And so I want to say kudos to you. And then I'm excited to hear this journey of what the last 2 years have looked like, because obviously it's had a huge impact on your life. You're at the salon, I think you said 1 day a week now. That's a lot
Hmm.
less than where you were this time two
Yeah.
years ago. So what's your strategy? What'd that look like?
Well, to your point, I do think I had two things sort of giving me an edge. I think a lot of people feel that, you know, the people who succeed in real estate are people who, had family that were in it or they had a lot of money to start off with. I didn't have either of those things,
Mhm.
but I had an incredibly high risk tolerance because not too long before that, I quit my day job with no savings and no experience running a business. So my risk tolerance is really high. And the second thing I had going for me was, so I'm married, I have a family, and my husband just has like unwavering faith in me with business. Like he
Wow.
had seen me build something from nothing, and he just really knew like if I wanted to get into something, it was going to be really calculated and I was going to go all in. So
Can
I
we talk
think
about that for
those
a
are
second?
two. Yeah.
How important the significant other is, especially
Mhm.
in a marriage, because I feel like that's underestimated a lot. Like it's almost nearly, from my experience, impossible to do anything that's going to have an impact if your spouse isn't on your team. And if you do go and do that anyways against their will, without you guys coming to an agreement, you're going to create friction in a marriage, and it's eventually going to lead to chaos.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people say, I want to get my spouse on board. My partner's not on board. So my husband Pat, like he has no interest in real estate. Like I try and get him to go to the meetups and stuff. He just is not interested, and that's
Yep.
totally fine. For a while I wanted to kind of force him to be as passionate about it as I was, but it's okay that he's not. But he does have just like this unwavering support and faith in me, even when I kind of am lacking faith in myself when things are a little tougher.
That's huge.
So I feel like that's really the only degree to which you need to get your partner on board. It's okay if they just are not into it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's a good clarification, that no, they don't have to be in the business with you, but where they trust you and support you. Same way on our end. My wife, she's got more involved. The older we've gotten, she'll design like our flips and pick the finishes and work with contractors. But up until recently, I mean, she didn't want anything to do with it. She's like, I trust you. Go make any business decisions you want, go buy any property you want. Like, I believe in you. And the freedom and confidence that that gives me to be able to run that portion of our life is unbelievable, because I know at the end of the day, if nobody else believes in me, if everybody else is clowning on me and hating on me, and I'm getting mean comments in the Instagram section, and nobody's listening to my podcast or whatever the case may be, it's like she still supports me. And to have that in
Hmm.
your corner is absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. So, anyways, you hop in, you got the supportive husband, supportive spouse, and you quit your job already. Like you didn't know how you were going to pay bills. You're already an entrepreneurial spirit, and now you do that again. Not quit your job, but you're like, I'm going all into real estate. And so, take us on that journey.
2 years ago, I was listening to all the podcasts. I was really diving into like the learning phase. And then everything started to sound the same. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm really just looking for golden nuggets now. Most
Mhm.
podcast episodes, like they used to be mind blowing. And now I feel like I kind of know everything they're talking about. Um, and to be fair, I wasn't listening to like super high level podcasts about commercial investing or anything. I was listening to like rookie podcasts, but that's really when I knew, all right, I need to stop consuming and just start doing now. And I'll go
Love
back to
that.
consuming later. So I knew how much money I had to start with. And I knew I wanted to stay close to home just for my personal comfort level. I knew single family wasn't going to work in my market. And I knew I couldn't really fathom getting into anything with like 5 units and up. So I knew I was kind of in the 2 to 4 unit range. And but I did know, I don't want to have to put down more than like 50,000. That was my comfort level at that time. And I knew that said, in this market, I had to find a loan product where I could put down less than 20%. So I actually found my loan product first. With this loan product that I was using, if I could buy something at enough of a discount, I could put down just 10% with a bridge loan. So I'm like, all right, I know how much money I have to start with. I have my loan product. I just need to find a property at a discount now that fits my buy box. And I don't come from, the construction world or anything. So I didn't want something that needed a lot of work because that would have just been too scary for me at the time. So I found a property, a duplex that had been sitting on the market for I think like 40 days, which was a long time at that time. And it just was a weird setup. So it wasn't really ideal for the retail buyer or the investor. But I went and toured it with my husband and the listing agent. I really hit it off with the listing agent. And I went home and I was like, this is the one I really, really wanted. I just have a good feeling. I wrote out this crazy detailed email, like complimenting the property, but explaining why numbers wise I could really only do a certain price for this. And it was literally, I broke down all the math. It was so over the top, but it worked. So um, the property was listed for 410 and I said I really could only do 350.
Wow.
And we actually met at 357.5 and then it appraised for 420. So having walked into
Jeez.
all that equity, I was like over the moon. And to this day, I'm like, I feel like it's just really good luck that my first deal worked out so well. It's still a great rental property. I have it now. It's 2 units. It's maybe about 20 minutes away from me. So I closed on that in January, late January. This was 2022. And I was like, okay, now I'm going to just regroup, see how this goes. No, I immediately went out and was like, now I want the next one. Now I want to try short term rentals.
You became a
so,
deal junkie
yeah,
immediately.
yep. I was like, I can't rest. So I started making offers on single family homes up in New Hampshire in the Lakes region because I really wanted to try vacation rentals. I have the customer service experience, and I really felt like my business experience was going to help me excel with short term rentals, and it did. So I think it was May 2022. I closed on that property, a single family home up in the Lakes region for vacation rentals. I actually have since sold that property, and we can talk about that after if you want to. Same thing. After that deal, I was like, all right, now I'm just going to chill for a little bit and regroup. No, I came across the perfect house hack opportunity. So by now, obviously, everyone in my life was like, you're crazy. But I found this duplex. One side was newly flipped. Same thing, it had been sitting for a while because it was just a weird time to list a property. Um, and it was perfect for us. So we got into that last summer. So this was summer 2022. So we live in half. We have a long term tenant in the other half, but we also midterm rent our guest room. So our mortgage is
Jeez.
right around $4,000. And when we have travel nurses in our guest room, it brings our mortgage obligation down below like 500 bucks.
And you have kids.
I do. Yeah. My stepdaughter, she's 15.
And people talk about how they can't house hack because they're either married or because they have kids. And you're sitting here today saying, nope, we do it all the time. It takes a
Yeah.
little
I
bit of
mean,
sacrifice, a little bit of
yeah.
sacrifice, and it's literally changing your guys' lives.
Oh, yeah. And it has to be worth it for you. And I understand that it's not worth it for some people. And, no shade to them. It's worth it for us personally, which I'm very happy about. But I totally get that it's not right for everybody.
Yeah, but I will say if it's not right for everybody, I think there are certain circumstances where it may not be. There are some loopholes, but I would say for the majority, I think it is right. I think that, and I appreciate you want to be nice and not hurt their feelings. It's my job to hurt the listeners' feelings and get them to take action. But it's never going to feel comfortable, I guess is the right way to say it. It's never going to feel comfortable, but it's interesting, Jesse. I have the opportunity to interview a lot of people, and one of the main themes that I hear from folks who are successful that are on this podcast is delayed gratification or having to
Mhm.
pay now to play later. And I think when it comes to house hacking, it's one of those things where you're delaying your dream comfort, right? Or you're delaying your dream life by sacrificing a little bit now to put you way ahead. Because the guys and gals that I know that have been most successful in real estate, most of them started with house hacking. And so to me, that tells me something. That says, okay, this is a powerful tool for whatever reason. It gets you ahead financially. It teaches you how to manage tenants. It gives you confidence to be able to add more to your portfolio. And there's a number of people that are going to listen to the show who have the opportunity to do it, but they aren't for whatever excuse. And so I just want to challenge them to do it. Try it. Do like Jesse's doing. Try a midterm renter for 90 days. Do a 3-month stay with a travel nurse. It's going to be a high quality tenant. You're not getting some weirdos who are coming in for 7 days. Like, have somebody stable come in and try your guest room, or if you own a duplex, try the other side, or whatever it is. Give it a shot, because I have never seen anybody do it and it go wrong. It only propels people to future wealth and success in real estate. So there's my rant on house hacking. I'm glad you brought it up. And I love that you guys are doing it even with the family.
Yeah, and there's other ways you can do it too, like rent out your garage or rent out, a high-end camper in your backyard to a midterm tenant, depending on what climate you live in. So you don't necessarily have to share space with people to hack your house. Like there are other creative ways.
Love it. So you guys are in the house hacking. So you started with multifamily property. You bought the short term rental, then your house hacking. I do want to dig into that short term rental, and then we can talk
Mhm.
about kind of where the portfolio is heading for now for for the future. What made you sell that short term rental? Because it looks like you didn't have it a long time before you got rid of it.
Yeah, so I held that property for exactly a year. So I sold it this past spring, and it was an awesome property. And I feel like we, as in me and my assistant, who's amazing and helps me with this whole, um, journey. I feel like we really nailed the whole systems and processes piece with short-term rentals, and we really nailed the customer service piece too. However, I think I fall into the group of people who I think I was just sort of a victim of like oversupply. The property wasn't really a unique enough stay to
Mm,
thrive in an area where there is an oversupply. My overhead was really high. So I just had sort of all these things stacked up against me. And overall, I think it would have cash flow wise been a break even for the year, which really is not the end of the world. I mean, I was still getting all the other perks of real estate investing.
mhm.
But to me, it just wasn't really worth it to be doing that work just to break even and have my equity trapped in there. Um, so I actually ended up selling it on creative financing because if I had sold traditionally, it would have been a true break even deal, start to finish, which again would have been fine. I took away a lot of great lessons and I created jobs throughout. And but selling on creative finance, I was actually able to turn it into more of like a $75,000 profit, which ain't bad for 1 year.
That is solid. Would you agree with this statement that most people underestimate the work required to operate a short term rental?
I would say most people who do not come from like a business owner background or an entrepreneurial background absolutely underestimate it. Or I think they underestimate how much, extra effort and thought you have to put into it to really excel.
I think that's a good point. I think it's made to look very easy by good marketers, and some of these guys are my friends. They do a great job of marketing. But from my experience, I've had two, still have one. You're in the hospitality business, as you learned, and so it's not just like you're buying a single family home, duplex, apartment complex. People are coming in, living. You don't really have to deal with them that much while they're there. I mean, these people are coming in and out, and everybody has different expectations for how the property should look and how it should feel, and every future booking is based on former reviews. And so you're playing this game of, I have to get 5 stars so that I can get future bookings, because anything under 5 stars on Airbnb is like a 1 star. And so you're having to play this silly game, and then guests now know that game, so they're able to play it back. And then you mentioned it, when I first got into Airbnb in 2018, I think it was 2019. I don't know. One of those years, it was a totally different game back then compared to what it is today. The amount of properties that was listed on Airbnb was not near the volume it's at today. And so you didn't have to work to stand out that much. You literally could throw a property onto Airbnb or Verbo and have it look in good condition and have pretty pictures taken, and you were staying pretty booked. Whereas today, that's not the case. You have to stick out. What I've noticed, and maybe I'm wrong and I'm going down a rabbit trail here on Airbnb, but what I've noticed is the very large luxury products today do very good. And then the smaller 1 bed, 1 bath, 2 bed, 1 bath, cute, quaint, stick out, got mountain views if you're in the mountains, beach views if you're at the beach type of properties. Those middle of the road properties that are kind of your 3 bed, 2 bath, 3 bed, 3 bath, they're not stood out. You don't have all the amenities. It's not cute inside. It doesn't catch your attention. Like, for example, if you're down in Disney World, if you just have a regular old, or Orlando, a regular old 3 bed, two bathroom house that's painted nice, it looks good, and you have a pool outside, that's not going to cut it. Your one room's got to be a Star Wars design. The next room's got to be a Minions design. The next room's got to be something. Like, you really, really, really have to stand out as an operator now, because so many people got into it during the real estate boom, I guess, in 21 and 22. And so now there's some pruning going on, and it's essentially may the best operator win. And some people don't want to do it. I mean, I'm at the point with mine where it's like, I don't love that part of the business. Hey guys, when you're just starting out as a real estate investor, finding deals is the most important thing you can do. But unfortunately, it can also be your biggest hurdle. And let me tell you, it gets even harder when your business grows and you don't have a lot of time to look for properties and evaluate deals like you did on the front end. That's why you need to work with New Western. New Western has properties ready for rehab on their marketplace today. That means you skip the hours of research, driving neighborhoods, or calling agents. And instead, you get to start with a ready-made property. You can rehab and flip it, or rehab it and burr it and hold it as a rental. So why is New Western good at what they do? Well, they buy and sell a property every 13 minutes. They work exclusively with investors and value-add properties, and that's all they do. They're licensed agents, they have a network of lenders, and they'll help you grow your business. So if you're ready to jumpstart your next project, visit newwestern.com, join their marketplace, and access the largest private source of rehab properties in the nation. The operation and trying to make my property stick out. And so for me, where it used to be a lot of fun, now it's just like, you know what? We're still cash flowing $850 a month. Until that stops, we're going to keep it. But it's not like it used to be, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree that it's just you really have to be all in on creating an experience if you want to actually cash flow from it. If you're someone who just wants to buy a vacation rental and like, make if you want to buy a vacation home for yourself and make some rental income to offset the mortgage, it's easy to succeed to that level. But if you
Agreed.
actually want to make it a business and cash flow, I think the bar is pretty high now. For me personally, if I was ever going to get back into the short-term rental game, I would do something with very low overhead.
Mm.
That's more of a unique stay. So like a redone vintage camper or something like that.
Real quick, my cool Airbnb story, then we'll switch topics. I bought I think it was 2019. I bought my first one in a place called Seabrook Island. It's in a gated community in Charleston, South Carolina. Bought it for 187, but it's in this gated island, like that's on a beach. Like, and so the whole neighborhood's like $1 million homes. And then I found this street with these ugly 1970s octagon shaped homes. And I was like, I can afford those. So I bought one for 185 or 187 in 2019. 2 years later, bought my second one right across the street for 287. So I paid 100 grand more. I already thought I was overpaying because in my mind I was still stuck in these cost
Hmm.
185, not 285. But I was like, you know what? The numbers still make sense from a rental standpoint. So I paid for them a year, almost like yours, almost exactly a year later. I decide, you know what? I'm gonna sell it. And a guy comes to me and offers $460,000. I just bought it for 287, 365 days before. Sell it for 460. We bring home a buttload of money. Didn't have to pay short-term capital gains either because I'd had it for a year. So I was capped at long-term capital gains. And I was like, all right, this was pretty awesome. Like, if I could do this with every property, then sign me up for the headache of dealing with short-term rental for a year, and then we'll just flip them. So that doesn't happen all the time, but that was what I considered a huge win. Speaking of huge wins, is $48,000 profit or maybe gross profit? I don't know. You can expound on your first wholesale deal. Like, spill the beans on that one.
Yeah. So, when we bought the house hack, summer 2022, I had bought three properties in a high cost area in 8 months. So, needless to say, I was pretty much out of down payments. And I kind of thought, did I screw up? Like, I feel like you're not supposed to run out of capital doing this. I went to BPCon a couple months later and I had this huge realization. That was my first one that I had gone to. And I had this realization like, wow, this is actually just a rite of passage. And I should be proud that I've gotten here because it seems like everybody either will hit, has hit that point where you run out of your own capital and it has to become a team sport. And I
Mm,
was really resistant to that. I didn't want to do the partnerships thing because I hadn't done that with my other business. And that really opened my eyes. I was like, okay, I have the time and knowledge, but I don't have the money. So who has the money but wouldn't have the time or knowledge? So I got back from BPCon. I reached out to everyone in my network who I thought might know somebody who fit that description, someone who understands the wealth building power of real estate, but just can't or doesn't want to do it themselves and is busy with other things. Um, so I actually was connected with someone who fit that description perfectly. We had a couple phone calls, we met for coffee, and the vibe was right. Our goals aligned. We both thought it was too good to be true of a partnership. And this past summer, together, we bought a 13 unit value add multifamily long distance over in Chicago. So that was my biggest purchase ever. It took a
Wow.
while to get something because prior to that, I was trying to make creative offers on market
Mm.
multifamily for 6 months closer to home. And that was a losing battle. So one weekend, I was like, you know what? I think we just need to bite the bullet and go long distance.
Yep.
The following Monday, we were under contract on that.
Funny how that
So
happens.
at the same time that we were closing on that, um, I was like selling the short term rental. And when I listed it for sale by owner, someone approached me. His name's John. He approached me and essentially was trying to buy it on creative financing. And I was like, yeah, I follow Pace Morby too. Call me in a month. And if I haven't sold it by then, I'll do it. So I couldn't really get what I wanted on market. So he called me back and I was like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, you know what? We should partner up. I want to find multifamily properties close to me off market with creative financing. Can we work on this together somehow? Like, I will do all the marketing, you do the closing calls and, coordinate the transaction, bring it to the finish line, and then I will basically pay you like half of an assignment fee. Well, I did a mail campaign for us, and we came across one property that didn't really fit in my buy box because it needed a lot of work, and that's not really what I was looking for. But it ended up being a really good wholesale opportunity. So this property we got under contract for 150. We were actually marketing it at 360 because the ARV was 950.
Jeez.
Yeah, crazy. So
Jeez.
it was a 4 unit that was being converted to a 6 unit, and the owner just really couldn't continue the project. I think he had health issues, and they were just ready to move on and let it go. Um, so we ended up finding a really strong buyer who made a case for a slightly lower purchase price of like 250. So at the end of the day, John and I got to split an assignment fee of just about $100,000. So I got a check for like 48.5, and we closed on that deal the same week that I closed on that 13 unit with my partner in Chicago. So that was a really good week for me.
That's got to be your best week of real estate, right? I mean, that's pretty
Oh
darn
yeah.
solid.
Oh yeah. That was really really awesome. And it was a tough road up until then. Like the beginning of this year was just a lot of feeling like I wasn't doing the right stuff. I wasn't spending my time on the right activities. Like I just wasn't getting results. But then it just sort of all came together at once. So,
You know why most businesses or operations, whether it's real estate, brick and mortar businesses, fail. You know, they say what 90% fail in the first 5 years or whatever
mm,
the statistic is. I think it's because I don't think it's anything. Maybe there's some money issues at some point, but I think it's most people just give up. You
yeah.
mentioned like the whole first part of this year. You're like, what am I doing? Like it's not working. Can't figure it out. And it's weird. I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how to explain it. But if you just keep going, you figure it out.
Hmm.
Like it's hard to put into words. It's like you just keep trying stuff, keep pivoting, and then you figure it out, and you finally have that breakthrough, and then you can just figure out, okay, what gave me that breakthrough? Let's go mimic and scale that. But most people never
Hmm.
get there, and it's kind of a sad thing. And to touch on one more thing that you hit on, I have this little saying: "Find deals, get money." And the first part of that is find deals. And your both your stories are prime examples of I truly believe that the most important skill in real estate is being able to find good deals. And if you can find good, great deals, then you give yourself a chance to be successful in many different ways. You can give yourself self a chance in the two ways you talked about, bringing on partners or wholesaling. or you can do where you're buying yourself, or maybe you get a private lender, or maybe you flip, or maybe you keep it in your portfolio. But it all starts with, how do I have that lead flow coming in of these fantastic deals? Because if you don't have that, nothing else matters. Look, the money, I've always said the money's the easy part. Like, you had a conversation with somebody in your network and they were like, you know what? Heck yeah, let's do it. Now, I'm not saying it is easy to go get money, but I truly think finding the deals is the harder part. And then once you have the deals coming in, money is abundant. There's a lot of people who have a lot of it who want to put it to work. And so if you can show, hey, I got this over here, can you bring this to the table? You're going to put yourself in a lot of scenarios that are going to lead to a lot of success and ultimately a lot of wealth. And I think it's cool that your story literally spells that out exactly.
Yeah, but you know what? I have a personal philosophy around that where I think a lot of people do go look for a deal that they have no idea how they're going to fund. And then let's say you do get, a verbal yes, or you actually get it under contract, even having no idea how you're going to fund it. And then you have to scramble to go find a partner. That sounds like miserable to me. So stressful. And then you run the risk of, you can't find the capital, you can't find the partner. So you have to break the contract. And that really kills your rapport with whoever you were working on that with. I honestly like to find a partner, the ideal partner, someone who brings to the table what I lack, vice versa. We're on the same timeline, we have similar goals, we really respect the role that each person is going to play in this, and then go find a deal for us. So that's what I did with the partner that I bought that 13 unit with. And right now I have another partner who, very similar setup. I'm making offers on properties for us as well. And it's just so much less stressful to already have this other person that you're going to work with on it, and then be able to go find deals that perfectly fit what both of you are looking for from real estate. But like
I
you said,
love it.
it's not easy to find deals. Like I feel like, in the spring when I was looking at deals, there were more that were working well because I got a really good rate. But these days, trying to make things pencil out, it's just, not a lot's working. But at the same time, there are fewer people in the game. And I also think the 10 to 20 unit multifamily is a sweet spot because it's like too big for the small guys, too small for the big guys.
Yep.
And with rates the way they are, a lot of people have just decided to sit on the sidelines or just get out of the real estate game. So while there's less competition, it is still a challenge with the way that rates are. So finding good deals is not easy.
100%. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what size multifamily commercial properties kind of take a bloodbath, but I think it's going to be some blood in the water here with these larger multifamily for folks who weren't expecting, the 8% rates when they bought in at 4%. So I
Mhm.
think there's going to be some opportunity there. And yeah, you're just having to get stuff, at a discount. I buy a lot of single family, a lot of residential properties. And you hit the nail on the head. One thing I've noticed is there's a lot less competition right now. And so homes are starting to sit longer. Not as many people are buying. And so I'm going in and I'm shooting my shot. I'm probably not going to the extent that you did when you wrote up your entire paragraph to buy that property, but I will offer, like, the last property I bought was listed at 150. I closed at 105. But I didn't just do that blindly and bash their home. I went in and said, "Hey, I'm an investor. Here is why I have to get it at X amount." And there's not as many folks doing that right now. And so if you keep your eye out, not afraid to shoot your shot. And then you mentioned something earlier, you don't always have to buy in your backyard. I coach students, and I would say probably 75% of them do not buy where they live. Like, that's very common. A lot of people live in a place. I think you're in Massachusetts. I got a couple students from Massachusetts. They're like, it's very hard to buy. Here where we live, it's just very expensive. May not be landlord friendly states, and it's okay to buy elsewhere. You that's a whole different topic. We won't go into that on this podcast. There's other podcasts that talk about it. You need to have good folks in place, good teams in place, boots on the ground, but you got to go to where it makes sense for what you're trying to accomplish. And don't be scared to do that. So, what does the future look like for you? I know you're wanting to scale through partnerships. Is that your goal? Is like, hey, go with these partners, grow this multifamily portfolio? Do you have a set number of doors, set cash flow number, equity number you're trying to hit in the coming years?
Yeah, I mean, I hate the door count number. I
I
think it's
know,
just like
same.
such a vanity number. And I also feel like it's so deceiving. Like,
Yep.
while I do have 17 units under management, I only own half of 13 of them. You know what I mean? So that kind
Yep.
of brings me to like a net 10 and a half. But I would like to do another couple deals very similar to that in similar partnerships, the 10 to 20 unit value add multifamily in a high cash flow area. I'm really liking Chicago. I would like to stay there. Um, so yeah, just continuing to work with partners who really fit my vision. We have the same long-term goals, same timeline. We value what each other brings to the table. So I'd like to do a couple more deals just like that over the next year or so. Um, I've also been doing outreach for a wholesale company, so I'm continuing to do that every week while the value add multifamily projects ramp up, and that's kind of my long-term plan. I think in the end, having 50 to 80 long term rental units in these partnerships would help me reach my goals. One of which is to retire my husband, make him work optional, and that would help me do that.
I love it. You have a vision. It all has to start with the vision. Then you've got your plan of action. And now you're executing. And you know exactly what
Mhm.
needs to be done. You got your blinders on, not giving in to all the shiny object syndrome, and you're going and you're crushing it. Man, what a fantastic story. Started the beauty salon, realized, hey, I don't know if I want to do this every day. Pivot into the real estate space, absolutely crushing it. You're figuring out advanced strategies very early on too to start having a capital partner and dealing in these larger multifamily deals. A lot of folks, it takes a little bit longer to do that. And so to see you absolutely crush it in that space and do such a good job, it is such a cool story, Jessie. And I appreciate you coming on the podcast today and sharing with everybody. I know this is going to be a very inspirational story.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's always nice to, share my story and just show that a lot really can happen in just a year and a half if you really buckle down.
I try to preach this all the time to folks that it's hard to understand the impact that real estate can have in such a short amount of time, because I think when you start, it's kind of like this um like it's mythical, like you don't really think it's actually going to do something for you, and then not long after you start it becomes tangible. So it comes from almost like theory to tangible, and it happens
Mhm.
very quick. I know for my wife and I, it took us, we bought our first property in 2018, and by 2020 it had made us millionaires, and then a year later or a year and a half later turned us into multimillionaires, just because we learned how to scale. And for us, it was residential homes utilizing the Burr method, and there's so many different methods that you can do to become wealthy in real estate. But you don't really know what's going to happen until you do it, and then you're like, holy crap, how do I tell everybody else to do this? Because it's really, really, really impacted my life in a fantastic way. And if all you guys who are just on this side of the fence and hadn't started yet would just jump over here and wait a couple years and buy and scale and connect and network and get in with the right people, oh man, you would experience a life, or you'd at least be on the way to a life that you never, really, really thought that you could obtain. But it's truly possible through real estate, and it's not just for the wealthy. I think people think real estate's just for the wealthy. The wealthy utilize real estate, but real estate is a fantastic tool to take you from middle class to, and you just got to know how to buy it. So where can people find you, Jessie?
Instagram is where I hang out most. So on Instagram, I'm Jessie Dillon with an underscore at the end.
Well, everybody, thank you for listening to this episode. Take a screenshot of you listening, whether you're on YouTube or podcast, and tag myself at Finance Cowboy and Jessie at Jessie Dillon underscore on Instagram. Put a picture of you listening to this episode in the stories. We both would like to thank you personally for taking time out of your day to listen to this episode. Again, Jessie, thank you so much, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.